Captain Torrance, flight commander. How can I help you? Dangerous? What did he do?
Homicide, 15.
Get him on board. Let's have a good flight. We're cutting right through the top of this.
Survive together.
Our flight has gone down. This is an emergency.
Die alone.
We're getting off this island.
The movie opens with Captain Brodie Torrance preparing for a New Year's Eve flight. He's a commercial airline pilot for Trailblazer Airlines, flying a nearly empty aircraft from Singapore to Honolulu with a short stop in Tokyo. Brodie is experienced and professional, though he's still coping with personal issues, particularly being separated from his teenage daughter Danielle, who lives back home in Hawaii. He promises her he'll arrive in time to celebrate the New Year. At the airport, Brodie meets his co-pilot Dila and the small crew for the flight, including Bonnie, the head flight attendant. Before boarding begins, they're informed about a last-minute prisoner transfer, a man being extradited by the FBI. The prisoner, Louis Gaspare, is a former French Foreign Legion soldier who was arrested years ago for murder. He's being escorted by a nervous, talkative officer named Shellback. The passengers are uneasy about having a criminal on board, but the airline insists it's a routine procedure. The plane takes off smoothly into heavy tropical weather. Brodie assures everyone the turbulence will pass soon. But as the aircraft climbs higher, it enters a powerful storm cell that the radar didn't fully detect. Violent lightning and wind batter the plane, shaking it intensely. Brodie and Dila struggle to stabilize it. Lightning strikes the fuselage, frying the electrical systems. Power goes out completely. The aircraft loses communications and radar. The entire cockpit goes dark, and the engines begin to fail. Brodie manually restarts the systems using emergency power. With one engine down, he radios air traffic control, but no one can hear him. Then the second engine fails. They are now gliding without power over the middle of the sea. Brodie quickly calculates they can only stay airborne for a few minutes before they'll have to ditch. He makes a fast decision. There's a patch of land visible on the radar, an island, and he'll try to land there. Dila helps him align the descent. The cabin crew braces the passengers for a crash landing. The aircraft drops fast through the storm, wind roaring and debris flying inside the cabin. Brodie uses all his skill to control the descent. The plane clips the tops of trees and lands hard on a long stretch of jungle road. The impact is brutal. Seats snap, oxygen masks fall, and overhead bins break open. The plane skids and stops, its wings torn but fuselage intact. Miraculously, most people survive. One flight attendant and one passenger are killed during the crash. The others are injured but alive. Once the immediate chaos settles, Brodie checks on everyone and confirms the plane's condition. The radio is dead and all communications are lost. They realize they've landed on a remote island in the Philippine Sea, far from any established flight path. They can't reach rescue services or even confirm their location. There's no GPS and the emergency beacon is damaged. Brodie and Dila search the cockpit systems to see if they can power up anything. Dila finds part of the flight recorder still working and notes their last coordinates. Brodie records a video message for Trailblazer headquarters in case they die. He tells the passengers to stay calm and wait for rescue. Meanwhile, back at Trailblazer Airlines headquarters in New York, the crisis team is alerted that Flight 119 has vanished from radar. The operations chief, Scarsdale, a former Special Forces crisis manager, is called in to lead the response. He immediately begins tracking all possible emergency landing points and coordinates with military and rescue teams. But he realizes that the plane has likely gone down somewhere in a politically unstable area, the southern Philippine island of Jolo, which is known to be controlled by separatist militias and violent insurgents. He warns that rescue will be extremely difficult. Back on the island, Brodie decides to venture out and search for help. The only one capable of accompanying him is Gaspare, the prisoner. He frees him from his cuffs, giving him a chance to prove himself useful. Gaspare agrees, though he keeps his guard up. The two men move into the dense jungle, following what they think might be a road or power line. The rest of the survivors remain near the wreckage under Bonnie's supervision. But unknown to them, they are being watched. Armed local militia members are already aware of the crash. They belong to a violent separatist group that kidnaps outsiders for ransom. The leader of the militia, Datu Junmar, is ruthless. He kills one of the passengers to assert control and forces the others to march through the jungle towards a village used as a rebel camp. When Brodie and Gaspare return, they find the wreckage deserted and signs of struggle everywhere, broken luggage, footprints, and blood. Brodie panics, realizing the passengers have been captured. They discover one hiding under the wing who tells them what happened. He says the rebels took everyone north toward the village. Gaspare insists they can't go after them without weapons, but Brodie refuses to abandon his crew and passengers. He arms himself with a metal rod and a broken flare gun, while Gaspare scavenges an assault rifle from one of the dead rebels they find along the road. They move quietly toward the village. Meanwhile, in New York, Scarsdale coordinates a mercenary extraction team led by Captain William Brodie, a tactical expert, to head to the island. He orders them to locate Brodie and the survivors, warning them that the rebels are heavily armed and unpredictable. Back in the jungle, Brodie and Gaspare sneak into the rebel village. They find the hostages locked in a wooden hut guarded by several men. Brodie kills the power to the area by sabotaging the generator, while Gaspare silently takes out one guard with a knife. They enter the hut, whispering for everyone to stay quiet. Brodie signals Bonnie to gather the others and prepare to move once he gives the word. As they lead the hostages out, one rebel spots them raising the alarm. A gunfight erupts. Brodie and Gaspare shoot back, killing several attackers, but more arrive from all sides. They flee into the jungle with the hostages under heavy fire. The rebels pursue them through the trees, shouting in Tagalog. Gaspare stays behind briefly to ambush the pursuers, taking out multiple men before rejoining Brodie. After several intense minutes, they manage to return to the crash site before dawn. Brodie repairs the plane's damaged communication battery using a spare part he scavenged earlier. He sends a distress signal that Scarsdale's team intercepts. Scarsdale informs them that a private rescue unit is already en route, but warns that the rebels will likely attack again before the rescue team can arrive. The rebels regroup and prepare a full assault on the crash site. Dozens of them advance through the jungle armed with rifles and trucks. Brodie and Gaspare set up defensive positions using luggage, seat frames, and fuel barrels as barricades. Gaspare demonstrates his combat training. However, several mercenaries are wounded and the plane's structure is now barely stable. The mercenaries tell Brodie that no other transport is coming. Their only chance is to take off using the damaged plane. Brodie knows it's risky but sees no alternative. He rushes to prepare the aircraft while Gaspare helps get the passengers aboard. The mercenaries use heavy guns to hold off the last few rebels closing in. Brodie starts the engines, praying they still work. Miraculously, one of them fires up. The runway is nothing but a rough dirt road surrounded by jungle. With everyone aboard except Gaspare, who stays behind, Brodie insists he must come, but Gaspare refuses. He says he won't go back to prison and that he's done his part. He hands Brodie a note for the authorities and disappears into the forest just as the rebels approach again. Brodie accelerates the plane down the rough road while bullets hit the fuselage. The damaged engine sputters but holds. The aircraft barely lifts off before reaching the trees. In a brutal final fight, Brodie shoots Datu Junmar, the militia leader, ending the attack. It shakes violently but stays airborne. Brodie and the passengers cheer in relief as the jungle falls away beneath them. Once safely above the clouds, Brodie makes radio contact with rescue authorities. They direct him to an emergency airstrip on a nearby island. When they land,
The brakes, Deli!
Congratulations, everyone.
the survivors are finally safe. Medical teams rush aboard to treat the wounded. Brodie, exhausted and bloodied, calls his daughter Danielle to tell him he's alive. The movie ends quietly. Brodie walks away from the plane, sitting on a rock near the runway, finally letting the adrenaline fade. His uniform is torn, his face bruised, but he smiles faintly, looking toward the sky. In the distance, a helicopter sweeps the island, searching for Gaspare, who has vanished into the jungle.